is there is a fear of stigma. We are warriors. We go into court. We kick ass and take names. If someone finds out I'm in therapy, I'm weak. No.
I ended up calling Barbara Buckley because she's just one of my mentors. And I just remembered.
Just because we're lawyers and judges doesn't mean we give up our humanity. That said, to answer this question, I reached out to Dan Hoagie. Things about that law blog, which I refused to read. Like,
I've heard about
crazy
this blog.
stuff.
I've never been there.
If you call LCL.
Hi, so we're here today to talk about the Nevada Lawyer Assistance Program. I'm Judge Anna Albertson. I'll be your moderator today, and I'm just going to go through and introduce each of my panelists, and then we're going to come back and have you give a little bit of information about yourself. So this is Justice Lee. This is Michael Burton.
Hello.
And Director Kristine
Kuzemka.
Sorry, Kuzemka.
Thanks, Justice Lee.
Director Kristine Kuzemka. And if we can just start, I'm a district court judge currently, presiding in Department 11 with an all-civil calendar. This is actually a very important and close topic to me because of my own experience. So I'm really happy to discuss it more, and I look forward to talking to a little bit about my own experience with it. Justice Lee, if you'll give a little bit of introduction about yourself as well.
My name is Patty Lee. I am one of the 7 Supreme Court justices in Nevada. I was appointed in 2022 by former Governor Sisolak, and prior to that, I practiced in complex commercial litigation with the law firm of Hutchison and Steffen, where I was a partner at the time that I took my seat on the bench.
Great, thank you so much for being here.
Of course.
Michael Burton.
Michael Burton, and I'm a family law attorney, primarily doing divorce and custody cases. That's pretty much all I've ever done. I have practiced with a business partner, Burton and Reardon, and that's, as a firm, that's all we do. So this, I think, is a good topic for me as well, because we, in custody cases especially, we deal with a lot of substance abuse issues, and so we see it as practitioners as well, you know, from in our profession, which is, I think, what we're primarily going to talk about, but also seeing it in your practice area, as I'm sure a lot of the criminal, you know, maybe defense attorneys and whatnot see that and deal with that, so you kind of get a lot of exposure to these issues.
Great. Kristine Kuzemka, and I'm the director of the Nevada Lawyer Assistance Program. I'm also a settlement judge for the Nevada Supreme Court, a private mediator, and prior to that, I was a litigator in civil court and also a criminal defense attorney when I started my career. 41 years I've been in recovery from alcohol and drugs, so I have a decent background in that to help other people. And I'm an avid motorcyclist, having just returned from Africa. And so I'm all about well-being, and I definitely think people should get out and have fun outside of our stressful profession. So I walk the talk.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you guys very much. So the Nevada Lawyer Assistance Program, or sometimes referred to as NLAP, right? I've heard it referred to as NLAP, was created by the State Bar of Nevada to formalize the clinical services available to attorneys and judges suffering from abuse, addiction, and or mental health issues. Kristine, can you give us a little more information about it and a little bit more background on it?
Yes, absolutely. NLAP is a spin-off of Lawyers Concerned for Lawyers, which was started in 1985 by a few attorneys here in Nevada to create a volunteer network of attorneys to help their colleagues who were suffering from substance use disorders, which was commonly referred to 40 years ago as alcoholism. Then the genesis was drug abuse. It's become substance use disorder. There's also process addictions, which are gambling, sex addiction, internet, that have the same or similar effects that an alcohol or drug addiction does to a person. So LCL was started, that was fine, and what we found out is that there was never really any vehicle to help people before they crashed and burned. And so for 2 reasons, NLAP was started, and that was to have a little more teeth to help people, because if someone was facing discipline and they didn't think they had an issue, now the Office of Bar Counsel can refer that person for an assessment and determine what their problem is and get them help for that. So it was started for that, and as I say, to assist people before they crash and burn. We did a good job helping folks, but we didn't really have the mechanism behind getting them assessments from a qualified medical professional, both in the rural areas, Carson City, Reno, and Las Vegas. And so, just to cap that off, NLAP, for purposes of assessments, if one self-reports, it's all confidential. So our clinical person will meet with that individual, give them an assessment, here's what we think you should do. That invoice goes to the State Bar and gets paid, but there's no name on it. However, if the Office of Bar Counsel refers someone to that program, then now you've got to pay $750 for the assessment, and it's no longer free. So it behooves the attorney who's having some difficulty to call NLAP and get the referral to Dr. Mark Chase here locally, and then we have providers up in Northern Nevada as well.
Okay, but attorneys don't have to be self-reporting, correct? Other people can call?
Right. Yeah, so if someone calls me, I'm the person behind the curtain, as it were, and it's all confidential, period. There's a lot that's locked into the vault here that no one will ever know. So if someone calls me, I'll reach out to the person. A couple people called me, they're concerned about you. Here's the resources that we have available.
Does that happen a lot?
It does. Mm-hmm. More so
Wow.
now, I think. I get more calls from practitioners.
I've called her, and I think she's hesitant to
okay.
say it. But I've called her. I obviously won't discuss who I've called about, but I have called about people that have appeared in front of me that I have had concerns with.
What about you? When you were on the bench, Justice, did you ever have an experience where you wanted to call on for somebody or called?
We have our chief has called concerning practitioners and sometimes other judicial officials who we may think is suffering from something. And so I think we actually have a duty to report if we think that that person is either jeopardizing their clients or they're jeopardizing the process or jeopardizing the people who appear before them. So we do have an ethical obligation actually to try to get them some help. So just depending on the severity.
No, would it be, not to get like way off topic, but would you call the bar or would you actually contact NLAP and say, so are you kind of doing the confidential thing that she's kind of talking about, or do you just go straight to the bar and make a bar
No, it
referral?
depends on the situation, right? So it's situational. Right. I mean, obviously, if there's something that we see that's deficient in their work to the point where it's reportable to the bar, we'll do that. But if it's just something that people have contacted us and say, we're concerned about this person. So we know that we have Kristine as a resource, and then we'll send them over to, we'll just call Kristine and just say, hey, we're concerned about this person. And then we kind of just let her take it from there, so long as it hasn't, disrupted their client trust accounts or they have been missing critical deadlines or anything like that. But if we're just starting to notice, and Nevada's a very small bar. Like, we all know each other, right? So I always say if I had to disqualify myself from everybody I knew, I would never sit on the bench, and none of us would. And so you kind of get to know people in our bar, and then you can tell when something's off about that person. And so for me, that's when I would reach out to Kristine and say, I know this person has always been very diligent as a lawyer. They've never missed deadlines. Suddenly we're having to give, hey, here's another chance to file this. Here's another chance to file this. And maybe after 4 or 5 times, we're like, this is just not who this person is, and that there's something going on. And that may just be all we have. So it's not like tattletaling to the bar where we're concerned about that, but just something's going on with this person, and that's my first stop there.
And let me add to that, to differentiate between whether or not you call me or you call the Office of Bar Counsel,
right,
or the State Bar of Nevada. It may look like someone called the State Bar before contacting me, but chances are they've contacted me. Mm-hmm. The issue is the person hasn't done anything to address their situation, whether it's gambling and they're dipping into their trust account, which is really bad. It could just be really stressed. They're going through a divorce. Someone in their family has a health issue, and they can't handle it, or they're a sole practitioner. and they have to keep working, and they can't take 2 weeks off. So to that end, call me. The duty to report, I want to address that as well. As a former criminal defense attorney, here's what we say: snitches get stitches. All right? So life is all about high school. There's cliques everywhere in the legal profession, in high school, and you are the last person who wants to call and talk about your colleague. Well, here's the deal. You're not tattletelling. What you are is helping someone. And here's a great analogy. Ben Graham, may he rest in peace, he was one of the guys who started LCL. He would say, if you see someone in a crosswalk and there's an 18-wheeler barreling down, what are you going to do? Are you going to pull them out of the crosswalk? And in doing that, you tear their favorite shirt? Okay.
Right.
Are they not going to be your friend for that?
Right.
By Operation Here, if you call, first of all, it's all confidential. But if for some reason the person puts together that it was you in court with them and you're probably the one who did it, would you rather lose a friendship temporarily or save someone's life? And that's what we're talking about. You're doing two things when you report. You are helping to regulate our profession because we really don't want someone coming in from the outside to start regulating us.
Right.
You are protecting the community from a lawyer who could be ineffective, and you are helping them and their family if they do grab the life ring that's thrown to them to get help with mental health, a substance use disorder, or just general stress that can impact their professional business.
So I was gonna have, so are there times when somebody would report, like the judges just mentioned, or even another attorney, and you would contact that person and you would find out they were just having a bad day or a bad time, or is there usually something to this?
Here, there's always a lot. It's multi-leveled. Judge Albertson and I were talking about this. When you see someone in court as a judicial officer and the person is, well, I'm sick, well, I have this, well, I have that. It could actually be something else. I had a colleague who was forever not meeting me where we needed to meet to talk about our client. Oh, I'm sick. And I thought to myself, what is going on? Lo and behold, this person turns out they had a substance use disorder and recently just celebrated many years of recovery. So what someone is telling you can probably be different than what's happening. So when you call me and I reach out to the person, I don't say, oh, I heard you were drunk, or you've got an addiction problem. Here's the deal. A couple people in the legal community contacted me. They're concerned about you. Who is that? Marty or whatever. I can't talk to that. I don't know if you have anything going on. My concern is to let you know what resources we have available, which are a therapy benefit, 5 sessions at no cost to the individual. And when that happens, I give them a couple names of the therapists. They contact them, who they feel comfortable with, they see. That therapist then gives an invoice that has 2 things: an arbitrary number, so no one knows if it's a lawyer, a judge, or a law student, and the 5 dates that the person was seen. That's it. No ICD, what are we, ICD-11 now, or ICD-10 codes, the medical billing thing.
Oh.
No diagnoses.
CPT codes, right? I don't know what that's.
No diagnoses on the invoice. So we have 2 layers of confidentiality because what we know is there is a fear of stigma. We are warriors. We go into court. We kick ass and take names. If someone finds out I'm in therapy, I'm weak. No, quite the contrary. And if anyone ever used that against a colleague in court, that would be bad. I have not seen it happen in the 24 years I've been in Nevada, and I hope it never does.
Yeah.
So
We
duty to
wouldn't be happy
report,
about it.
do it, and let me just add on the duty to report. If you do that, you are absolved of any kind of civil liability. So if you report someone who is on the hook for hundreds of thousands of dollars of their trust account being missing, and you reported it, you're not going to be civilly liable, and that's codified in, it's either the Supreme Court rules or RPC. I think it's SCR 106.7.
Okay.
In any event, really focus on you're getting someone help. It's not about making someone feel bad. It's not about disciplining them. It is about helping them before there's a possibility of discipline, losing their license, being suspended, whatever the case may be.
Well, the situation we're in now is a little more unique, where I can't just say to my colleague, hey, what's going on? And they might honestly tell me. So that's part of why I've called Kristine a couple times, because she can check on them in a way I cannot, and in a way that it wouldn't even be appropriate for me to do so.
That makes sense.
So that's a massive benefit. And I would keep this in mind even if you're opposing counsel with someone. They're just not going to be as honest with you in certain situations because of your roles in relationships. So that's why I've called you a few times, because we're not in a position where we can make those calls at this time, and I'd rather stop somebody before something happens than wait till after and then deal with it on the back end, and it becomes a much bigger issue. Because the few times I've called, it wasn't because I thought there was substance abuse. I was concerned that there was something going on, and I couldn't suss out what the issue was.
Right.
And I think in your position, you're much more capable of doing that, especially if someone gets a call individually. It's not an open court. It's not on the record. It doesn't have to be any of those things, and they can go get help. Or maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's just a bad day. But just in case it isn't, on the off chance it wasn't, on the couple of times, I think it's worth the call.
Yes, because a couple of things. Oh, someone cares about me. Someone called, and then it was followed up. And to your comment on something bad happening, here's a tool. Play the movie. Here, you're sitting in this chair. You called LCL. The person got a call. They went into treatment. Great. Now, I can't ever tell you about that. All I can say is, if you see a change in behavior, then maybe someone did something. I have no idea. Here's the other movie. I don't do anything. In 2 weeks down the road, this person, in a DUI, in a blackout, got into a car wreck and took out a family of 4. Okay, which movie do you want to live with? Now, it could be you called and they still got a DUI and hurt somebody, but you took the time to reach out and do what you can. And that's like the policy behind our duty to report. Protect the community, help lawyers, regulate the profession. That's the State Bar's mission.
I was going to ask about the third one, which is probably the most, like, addiction and lying kind of go hand in hand. So how do you deal with that when you're trying to reach somebody and maybe that's been reported, and then you can just tell they're not being forthcoming, and then do you have to then go and say, okay, maybe I have to go to the bar now with that?
Nope, no. Capital N, capital O. No.
That was a good question.
No, that is not my job.
Okay.
Right.
My job is to help someone get into recovery. I will tell you, there are people I have been talking to for 10 years,
Oh, okay.
okay, who have gone through various difficulties in their professional life. There are some who have died. Dave Schubert, I worked with him, and unfortunately, he fell prey to the disease and he died by suicide. We don't say committed suicide, we say died by suicide. There's another guy who is a contemporary of his who went through diversion in the court system, and he's a very successful practitioner. So you have 2 guys, same age, same backgrounds. One didn't grab the life ring, one did, one's dead, one's alive. So with the denial of this disease, it's a disease that says you don't have it. Mental health is often a part of it. And so some people self-medicate through either a process addiction or alcohol and drugs. It's multifaceted. There's no one clear answer, but I will tell you, there are other programs out there to help colleagues, friends, and families. It's called Al-Anon. And the State Bar NLAP just started a meeting on Wednesdays a couple of months ago that you can find on the State Bar website. So if you're a friend, if you're a spouse, if you're a child of someone who's suffering under the oppression of a substance use disorder or process addiction, this is a place to go and get support for how to deal with your loved one who wants nothing to do with changing their behavior. And what we find is that it is a family disease. And I will share this. Lawyers who are grandparents who have a child who is a professional and has pretty much tanked their profession, they've done everything they can to help get the person into treatment. Nothing has worked. And that's a tough one. I don't have the answer for that. Therapy in Al-Anon works. And I know that it's a family disease because the parents are enabling the child who's sick. And the siblings often report, man, for 20 years you've been focused on so-and-so. I don't feel like I even have a relationship with you. So when the person who has the problem gets help, the family needs to as well. And so Al-Anon's a piece of that. If they go to treatment, there's family components to that treatment. And so it's real important for us to raise awareness and educate and reduce stigma.
Yeah, and I would say that I'm glad you brought up that it's a family. It can be a whole family disease. You know, my father was a chronic alcohol user. We just called it good old alcoholism back then, so it wasn't the new lingo that we have now. But and it was devastating for our family. It completely broke up our entire family. He left when I was about 7 years old, leaving my mom and my two brothers. And I think, as devastating as that was, I think he did it to save us because it was just such a destructive time. And so I am keenly aware of perhaps a propensity that I might have, or some kind of predisposition to substance use disorder, particularly with alcohol. And so I'm always very keenly aware of just not using alcohol when I'm stressed out, and using that as kind of a, I can remember most recently when Dennis Prince passed away in that horrific manner in which he did, I was not okay. And I felt so devastated. And you do feel weak when you reach out and say, I'm not okay. I ended up calling Barbara Buckley because she's just one of my mentors. And I just remember just crying to her on the phone. And she was so kind. She sat and talked to me for about an hour. And just that alone made me feel so much better. And it would have been really easy in that moment to just go grab a drink or, just let me just self-medicate. And I think that our professions are hard enough as it is. Like, we are in the most stressful job, I think, on the planet. And it is very easy. I think that's why we have such a high rate of alcoholism or substance use disorder in our profession, because it is so stressful. And we are known to be tough and impenetrable, and we're going to go out, we're going to get the victory for our client. We're super competitive. Most of us are A-type personalities. So to be vulnerable and say, I'm not okay. I mean, it was hard for me to tell, but I had to tell somebody because it was just killing me. And I just called Barbara and I just let it all out. And that was so therapeutic for me. So I think that just having a stigma that, having therapy or needing help or recognizing that you have a predisposition, so you have to be very careful not to use alcohol or drugs as a tool to overcome stress. Developing, healthier ways to deal with that stress, I think is important for us, particularly as practitioners. I mean, it's just, and it's just taking away the stigma of that. That's why I love the confidentiality of your program, because I don't think, and I cannot stress enough that she's not going to report you to the state bar, because that would be a deterrent for people to call. Unfortunately, in our position, we're a self-regulating profession, and so we have to be responsible enough to say, well, okay, now you are harming the public. And so if we see that you are not showing up to trial, or there was actually an attorney years ago who actually came to trial like visibly intoxicated and came late, and in those instances, or the settlement funds aren't being passed along to the clients because they're not there, because they've been gambled away, or they've been commingled with your, and all of this is coming out of some type of substance use disorder. So in those types of instances, we do have to protect the public, which is paramount. I mean, that's our most our foremost duty is to the public, and do no harm. I know we're doctors, but we're lawyers, and we have a similar creed that you're not supposed to do any harm to your clients. And so that's our first concern as attorneys, as judges, is to make sure that the public is protected. But that doesn't mean we're devoid of compassion for the attorney as well, right? You want to make sure that if it's something that's correctable, first of all, let's put in all the guardrails, and whatever discipline needs to happen should happen, and then there should be some type of path to redemption. In my personal belief is path to redemption, and getting that person some help so that their whole life isn't ruined by these type of addictions and issues. It takes a long time to be a lawyer, and once you're a lawyer, it's like, what is it called, the golden cage or the golden handcuffs or whatever. Like, it's hard to do something else once you've been practicing for so long, and to lose all of that can be very devastating. So,
Justice Lee brought up something interesting that actually I'd love for you to talk a little bit about, Kristine. The trauma issue and the resources available. These resources are not just available where we think there's a substance abuse, but there's also mental health aspect, correct?
Yes, good.
And if you want to talk a little bit about that, that would be great, I think, because I think that's a really powerful way to use these. And I want to be clear too, the people that I've called about, I wasn't suspecting necessarily a substance abuse issue. Sometimes I was suspecting some issues not dealing with health issues and not properly addressing health concerns, and how those might affect them down the line if they don't immediately start changing a little bit of their policy. And in some cases, they probably need, something as simple as a buddy attorney to be employed with them, to help cover things. And there's all kinds of different options. But as I said earlier, we can't, in our positions, we can't tell them they have to employ some of those options. Sometimes it's better to have a third party come in and discuss that in more detail. And I can't have confidential discussions with them, which also creates a barrier to me having some of these conversations myself. So if you want to talk a little bit about the trauma issue.
I do. And I want to talk about buddies and judges, attorneys, court staff, jurors. All suffer secondary or vicarious trauma. When you look at photographs that are horrific, when you hear the testimony of a 7-year-old who was sexually assaulted, and you can't look at magazines anymore because the little girl testified about a magazine being looked at by the assailant, and the judge heard that, right? Something as minor as that. Seeing a child, a photo of a child that's 2 years old in a casket at a sentencing, and you've got children at home. That affects us.
yeah.
And it should. Just because we're lawyers and judges doesn't mean we give up our humanity. Now, probably not appropriate to start hysterically crying on the bench when you see that, but afterward, I would love to see judges have what we call a peer support system, where if you go through something like that, a 2-week murder trial that was horrific, your colleagues know, the jury came back, and you've gone through this. 2 people should be calling you to say, hey, how are you doing? Or you should have some people to say, oh, I just went through this trial and it was hard. You can't do that with other attorneys, but you can do that with your colleagues if you build that system. Okay, and to that end, have 3 or 4 people in your universe who you trust. Barbara Buckley, your mentor. You are so lucky that you could call her and spend an hour and have her validate what you were going through in hearing about your friend and former colleague.
Yeah.
And how many people in our community went through that.
Yeah.
The other piece of that, I work with Dr. Johanna O'Flaherty, who's a CISM trained person. She deals with first responders. And that is the people who show up after a horrific accident or incident like Lockerbie, like 9/11, and like October 1 here. Different than getting help for depression. When you've gone through trauma, there is a response to that. And with the help of a therapist and a traumatologist, you can get details on what to expect and how to deal with that, which is separate than going to therapy for 3 years because you're dealing with other issues, okay? The sooner you get assistance with the trauma that you experienced, the better. When that horrible thing happened, Dr. O'Flaherty and I met with folks who directly experienced that. And that's our trauma team that we mobilize. Barbara Buckley's group, the Resiliency and Justice Center, they were there. So that's vicarious and secondary trauma. And though not a lot of people experienced it, it affected a lot of people significantly, in addition to the people who directly were affected by it. I hope we never go through that again.
Me too.
I'm grateful that it is a rarity. I hope it remains such, but I am also hopeful.
Doesn't that go back to your comments, though, about we have to start talking to each other
Yes.
and checking in with one another
Yes.
and not be afraid to say something, because sometimes can't those, I'm not saying that this one could have been stopped, and I don't think any of us want to play armchair quarterback at this time and say, well, we could have, would have, should have, but stepping in and checking on someone early has it been shown to make a significant difference?
Oh, absolutely. We're human beings and we have feelings, and we are affected by what we see, by what we hear, by what we do. And raising awareness to that element of us is crucial if we are going to continue on in our respective roles, whether in the judiciary or as a practicing attorney, for our well-being. We have to do that. It's critical.
And I suspect with you, because you're in family court all the time, I mean, that's about as high conflict as it gets.
Well, the issue we were talking about was family law related.
Right.
Yeah, very personal. People take it very seriously because it's money's money, and it's civil actions, but people take it very personal when they think their kids have been taken from them or they've lost their family. They feel hopeless, and it's not a good place to be mentally, feeling hopeless, and then you see how bad it can be. That shook our community pretty bad.
Yeah. And I wonder how you all, as family law attorneys, deal with that kind of, I mean, I dabbled in family law for my pro bono cases, and those were really hard for me. When I was representing women who had been violently beaten up by their boyfriends or spouses, or these CAP kids who have been abused or neglected. I mean, I could only take like 1 or 2 cases at a time because it was so emotionally heavy.
I even have my limits as far as I don't want anything to do with like the abuse and neglect court where you're dealing with, real child abuse, and I don't really want to make a living defending those sorts of behaviors for sure. Abuse and stuff shows up in run-of-the-mill custody cases and stuff too, but not to that level. And we talked about vicarious trauma. I don't want that. I don't want to be reviewing photos, and occasionally this does come up, and I've had some bad ones, but the people who do this on a daily basis, like the people in the DA's office and the public defender's office who are handling the sex crime units and the juvenile offenses against juveniles, and that's
Murders.
Yeah.
As a former public defender,
Yeah.
I ride my motorcycle all around, and there are places I ride out on the road from Nipton to 15 where I know there was a body there. That was my case.
Yeah.
How many years later, and I still remember it. But I have a therapist at the ready when I need it. And I want to say this about that. If someone breaks a bone, Oh, what happened? Well, I was scaling Mount Everest and, I fell in a crevasse.
As we do.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you can see that.
I don't think that's a relatable.
No, okay, all right.
Oh.
For her, it is.
All right. So you can see it.
Fall down the staircase by accident. Let
Okay.
go of the banister for a moment.
Okay, so you're in a boot or you're in a cast,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Versus I'm walking down the hallway and I got a broken bone here. You can't see it. And a lot of times we put on a happy face. People who are suffering from mental health. Well, what do you have to be depressed about? You're a lawyer, you got a nice house, you got a nice car, blah, blah, blah. It's not about that. And so whether it's a mental health issue that's organic from depression or it's trauma-induced, whatever the case may be, just raising awareness and paying attention, being mindful of your colleagues. And Judge Albertson, I want to make sure we get to this question about disciplinary proceedings and this being a pass on getting
Yes.
assistance.
You know, questions from viewers.
I actually
Yes.
had a question. I think that's on the same lines as that. We'll probably answer that because I wrote like a devil's advocate question here on, and for Justice Lee, since you guys are over the attorney discipline too, I wonder how you feel that. Do you ever feel that people commit egregious conduct, steal trust money, other things, and then they go, "Oh, I have a substance abuse disorder or a gambling addiction," as sort of a cop-out?
No.
Okay.
Okay, so the question from viewers, why is NLAP a diversion used in disciplinary proceedings instead of imposing discipline? Some viewers struggle with the notion of lawyers getting away with it. This is an opportunity to grapple with this head-on and explain recovery.
Okay.
So let's talk a little bit about the idea of using this as a diversion. Are lawyers getting away with it if we're calling and reporting them to NLAP instead of doing bar complaints, or is this a different avenue altogether? And if so, let's talk about that.
I think there's some cross-section there in terms of did someone call and get help before they went into their trust account, before they missed their deadlines, then great. Good for them. However, if they can't handle it, let me be very clear. I am separate from the Office of Bar Counsel. So as a lawyer, before I became the director of the Nevada Lawyer Assistance Program, if I saw someone and I was a subordinate, I have a duty to report if that partner's doing something wrong, if a colleague is, right? A lot of times that doesn't happen. That said, to answer this question, I reached out to Dan Hoagie, who is Bar Counsel. He runs the whole Office of Bar Counsel for the state of Nevada. And just so I didn't get anything wrong, I had him explain it to me. So I'm separate, and what I'd like to do is just read what he said.
I think that's a great idea.
All right? I hate reading, I like talking, but I'm gonna read this so that it's accurate. All right, so this is from Dan Hoagie, Bar Counsel for the State Bar of Nevada. The State Bar's goal is to protect the public. The ABA's model rules for lawyer disciplinary enforcement, which Nevada's system mirrors, prioritize first the public. Second, the integrity of the profession, and third, the individual attorney. I think the perception that diversion is letting lawyers get away with it misunderstands the purpose and rigor of a diversion program. So a diversion program is not easy. It is not a slap on the wrist. It is a pain in the ass. All right. Discipline, those are my words, not Dan's. Discipline, such as a suspension, punishes a lawyer for their misconduct. But if an underlying untreated substance use disorder or a serious mental health condition causes the misconduct, then the suspension does not address the problem. So they go through suspension, they get their license back, and then they do the same thing.
Right.
This is why we offer diversion programs for negligent and minor misconduct. A lawyer suspended for neglect caused by alcoholism may serve their suspension and be reinstated. But if their addiction remains untreated, then they will return to practice with the same impairment. The risk to the public remains unchanged, or it may be worse. For example, as an alcoholic and a person who utilized drugs, 41 years later and still in recovery, my addiction can take the scenic route. Internet shopping. I can do excessive things. So someone gets this taken care of, and then all of a sudden, well, I've got a sex addiction, and that's getting me in trouble. I'm spending thousands of dollars on that, or I'm doing crazy things and getting caught. So while diversion may work for one substance use disorder or addiction, process addiction, it can resurface. We can't guarantee that this person is going to stay in recovery. Okay.
Now,
OBC offers, there's more.
okay,
There's
keep
more.
going.
OBC offers the Nevada Lawyer Assistance Program only if they identify a nexus between the misconduct and a treatable impairment. Diversion's not a free pass. It's an intensive, structured, and rigorous treatment path with oversight. It is not an easy way out. A typical diversion contract requires the attorney to abstain completely from drugs and alcohol, gambling, whatever the issue is. Submit to frequent, random, and observed drug and alcohol testing, for example, a UA, SoberLink, or PETH. They have to attend regular verified support group meetings, like a 12-step group or therapy. Maintain a relationship with a mentor who oversees their caseload and trust account, and have regular check-ins with State Bar Probation Monitor. Finally, if the lawyer fails to comply with the conditions, then OBC breaches them and asks the panel, which could be the Supreme Court or the panel in the State Bar's disciplinary proceedings, the original discipline, for example, a suspension. This model protects the public more effectively. A lawyer in recovery is a lower risk to the public than a lawyer who has simply done their time without recovery. So that's from Dan Hoagie, and it is not a free pass. It is rigorous, and it is a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
And it should be, because
Right. And I will add that if it's a serious offense, right, then you're not going to just get away with doing diversion. Not that you get away with it, but there's also a punitive aspect. It's really not to punish the attorney; it's really to protect the public. But in order to do that, like, so let's say you have a serious drug addiction that has caused, there's a nexus between your substance use disorder and the harm that you caused to the public. While you are going through that diversion, we may say you're also suspended during that time, and then you have to show progress during that time. So we can't take you out of the profession. So it's not a mutually exclusive concept to go through to diversion and then also have some discipline. But especially, the greater the harm, the potential harm, the more we're going to want to try to see some progress and some stability incrementally, and with supervision and with check-ins and with reports, random drug testing, and CLEs. You have to do CLEs while you're suspended, or sometimes even while you're in diversion. So I think if there's a perception out there that a diversion program is kind of skating through, I think, as Kristine mentioned, that is the furthest thing from the truth. It's a very, very rigorous program designed to hopefully rehabilitate that person so that they can then re-enter the profession with the understanding that what they did hurt the public, and with the resources necessary to cope with whatever those triggers were that got them using in the first place.
yes.
Now, one of the other questions we had submitted was, do lawyers have to admit to a mental health issue to be accepted into NLAP?
No. No, not at all. I don't need to know. When someone calls and says, oh, I heard about this therapy program, 5 sessions, great. I don't need your last name. Are you a member of the State Bar, or are you a law student? Yes. Okay. If they want to tell me what's going on, my spouse just died, I've had a horrible case, that's fine. I ask them, do you want a male or female? Do you want a diverse therapist? We have all of that. And there's no requirement to admit to anything. That's none of my business.
Well, that gets to our next question. We
Okay.
got, can NLAP reject an applicant? And
Well-
does NLAP reject any applicants?
There's no applicants. First of all, an application to me is, here, you've asked me questions, I filled it out, I qualify. No.
Right.
And here's the deal. If you call and you want help, therapy benefit, the Calm app is
Okay.
available. That's on the State Bar website. That is usually $69 or $79 a year. It is free. to every member, judge or attorney.
What does it offer?
Calm?
Yeah, the
Oh
calm
my
app.
God. That's awesome. It offers
As someone who obviously hasn't used it, that's why
Yeah,
I'm asking
I-
you about it.
variety.
Have you
I'm
used
learning
it?
about this as well.
Oh
Yeah.
man. It is the Calm app.
I have heard of this app actually, but
Okay.
I didn't hear this benefit.
There are meditations for stress, anxiety, grief. There are sleep stories. As a former litigator, I'd wake up at 2 in the morning. Oh my God, did I get that? Oh, I better call and make sure service is effective, right? Okay, so I keep a note at the side of the bed, and then I turn on a sleep story. There's thousands of them, okay? There's the Daily J, this guy with a great accent.
And this is free with all of our memberships.
Yes. So do it.
We should try it.
Okay, as a mediator, I'm going into rooms, someone tells me something, I go back, well, you told me this. I didn't say that. What? And my head spins. So I have to go into a room, find a little meditation for 2 or 3 minutes, do it, remember why I'm there, and then go back and be of service as the mediator. It helps there, it helps to sleep, it helps to start my day. It is an amazing program. So do get the Calm app.
Okay,
And
that's
then in
free,
addition,
right?
yeah, that's free.
Okay, what about NLAP? Does that cost anything?
No, your 5 sessions are free. If you go to an LCL meeting or an Al-Anon meeting that we started, or the stress relief meeting that's on Tuesdays via Zoom, you can get the links on the State Bar website. There is no cost to that. And what else? There's something else that I wrote down here. Stress relief meetings, Calm app, LCL, and then your therapy benefit.
Now, I think we've talked about it quite a bit, but what level of confidentiality is there with this program? If someone does call, or if someone calls to ask you to check on someone else?
Oh, that's it. I mean, wild hornets can't drag anyone who reported to me. It just isn't going to happen. That would ruin the program. It's me. And so there's really no risk of anyone finding out.
Is it true that if you are, say, a judge and you don't want anyone even locally to know, like a therapist, that you're struggling with anything, that there are out-of-state therapists that you can also use? I think you mentioned
Not
that to me
out of
before.
state, but
Out of jurisdiction.
yeah.
Okay.
For example, if you're in Las Vegas and you don't want to go to someone's office for fear of someone seeing you, as an unintended consequence of COVID, we now have telehealth that's
Right.
very prevalent. So I have a great therapist up in Carson City, Jose Perrine, and she does telehealth.
Nice.
I have them in Reno, I have them in Carson, I have them in Henderson.
I think it's very difficult to find an in-person therapist at this point.
No, it's not. Not if you call me, I've got them.
I'm not speaking in this context. I'm just saying in general, since COVID, I believe that a lot of therapists now are doing that because it is more accessible. So
They
you
do
could-
it as an option, but I think really meeting with a therapist in person the first few sessions to build that rapport is key.
Yeah.
And then if you are stuck in your office, like Mondays, we have the LCL meeting at 5:30 at the State Bar office. Because of COVID, we meet in person every Monday at 5:30, and we also have, it's a hybrid. So people can Zoom in. If you're stuck at your office and you still want to hit to the meeting, and you're required to do it, you can send me an email. Can you please confirm my attendance last night? Yes, this confirms your attendance. That's it.
Now, what about successes? So how often are you seeing the NLAP program be successful? And are there any ways that the success is being measured?
Yeah, no, it's not being measured per se because of the confidentiality. I can tell you that would be a quantitative study. Qualitatively, people come up to me who I don't know. Oh, thanks for that referral. I saw this therapist when I was going through a divorce. The therapist gave me this great book, and it really helped me. So, man, people, I heard the CLE, I used the therapy benefit. So that feedback we get. However, and this is the next piece. In 2016, there was a study that was published by Patrick Krill, who's an attorney, and he's also got a chemical dependency degree, and the Betty Ford Clinic in Minneapolis. So in 2016, what they found is what I mentioned earlier. The barriers to getting help are awareness, education, stigma. So we've done all right with that. With substance use, I think mental health is still lagging behind. And that study found 21% of licensed employed attorneys qualified as problem drinkers, compared to 6% of the general population. 28% struggle with depression, anywhere from 25 to 60% facing disciplinary charges that have an underlying substance use or mental disorder. Now, 2016, 10 years old. Well, Patrick Krill has been busy, and he teamed up with the University of Minnesota. This past year, they came out with a new survey. And I'm delighted to report Nevada's very involved with that. And the survey went out to every member of the state bar. It happened in July. And now 39 states participated. Back in 2016, it was like 18 and 12,000. And there's like close to 40,000 people who responded to this one. The great piece is, and this goes to your question about how do we quantify any successes, Nevada's data is going to be separated out from, and every state, every jurisdiction that participated will have a data analysis of their attorneys. Not, I mean, it was a blind study. The survey was done impeccably in terms of not knowing who was responding, but we will know what people answered as far as issues of mental health, issues of substance use disorders, issues of problems in their practice. I can't remember.
Do you find that there's any areas of practice or certain types of practice that people are in the midst of where some of the risks go up in certain ways? Like Michael's family and his family law attorneys tend to have a higher frequency than other areas. Is there any area that you're finding, I guess, a higher frequency issues than others?
Maybe sole practitioners, because they're running a business, they're practicing law, they have to make money. There's not a lot of safety net there. So that I think trust and estates attorneys are probably the least stressed out because they are literally working 9 to 5 in most cases. I think people involved in big firms with the billable hours can be very stressful. People in the public defender's office, in the prosecutor's office, I think judicial officers, especially in this state, are overworked. And, you know, I'm going to say it would really behoove the bench to have a program of peer support so that you're not on an island isolated, so that if you go through a difficult case, you have resources available to process through that.
Well, especially the sole practitioners or even smaller practices. I think
Yes.
some of the groups, it's cost prohibitive almost with some of the costs for conferences and so forth. And I understand why they're where they are, because we all want to go someplace nice and have a nice break. But I think it gets harder, and taking the time off gets harder. So that's interesting about the sole practitioners. I hadn't really thought about which area of law it might be affecting more.
Yeah, because how are they taking a vacation?
As
Who's
And as-
covering for them?
high as
right?
those numbers are in that report, they're likely higher, aren't they?
Oh, yeah, because
people would
people
underreport.
Exactly. Yes, yes. And so that's the whole purpose behind a blind survey is that people feel safe, but still a lot of times people don't feel safe. And I've heard
Well, what if-
things
even if-
about that law blog, which I refuse to read. Like
I've heard about this
crazy
law blog. I've
stuff
never
like,
been- I've never
oh,
been on it.
if you call LCL, your laundry's going to be out on the street.
I
What?
want to ask a question though, because you said they might underreport because maybe they're not convinced it's confidential. But if you have, don't people naturally kind of underreport their conduct in some of these things, even if they're trying to be honest? Like, you know, like.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You go to a therapist, how many drinks do you have a week?
Right.
2 beers.
Right.
Meanwhile, you're
Yeah.
having a case a night.
Right.
Hello. I mean, it's
So
all
even if you're not
relative.
intentionally being deceptive, I think the nature of it is inherently going to bring that.
Yeah, you don't want to look bad.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're honest and you say, well, I'm putting down a fifth a night, maybe you need an assessment for,
Yeah.
drinking
I don't know
too
why our
much.
dentist needs to know how many drinks we have a week, or like my gyno. Like, why is that on this form? Like, you don't need to know any of this information. But I see what you're saying.
But it's comprehensive. I mean, they're being good. That
Yeah,
they
I
can
guess
find
so.
that out and maybe as your doctor say, oh, you might want to take a look at that.
True. I guess that's
They could
true.
be committing malpractice. If something happens to you, well, weren't you her doctor? Did you ever ask her if she had an issue? Did you ask her why her liver was
I
bad?
guess that's a good point. I don't know what my dentist asked,
Yeah.
on the form of the dentist. I'm like, you're just doing the teeth. I don't know what's up.
I love that you know
Oh.
the form. I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's a box like
I-
this many to this many. This
Well,
many.
you
You
can
read
get
that stuff, though? I
sepsis
just
and
go,
stuff,
no,
right?
all
From
the
a
way
bad
down.
tooth, and if you're drinking,
I
and
hadn't
if you're
thought
not
about
taking
that.
care of yourself,
Okay.
then your teeth can get
I
bad.
apologize, Dr. Kim. You're good. I didn't mean to besmirch your good name.
So, not to wrap up, but if we want to get some final thoughts, and let's get some final thoughts. Anybody want to add something more or additional before we start to talk a little bit about the how somebody might get more information and how somebody gets access to services. But before we do that, I want to make sure we've covered some of the major things that we were intending to cover. So, Michael, is there anything you want to say?
Yeah,
Or any
earlier I
questions you
thought
had?
I wrote down that I remember a few years ago the bar added a substance abuse CLE requirement, or they enhanced it. Have you noticed that having any sort of impact on anything?
I think it has. I think it has raised awareness. I think it has provided a forum for education and also safety. And word of mouth is huge. Like if you have benefited from it and you see a colleague, oh, hey, there's this therapy benefit. It might help you going through your divorce. It's a myriad of things.
If someone's, let's say, on the brink of maybe thinking if they needed help or something, that might be the thing that could push them over to getting help if they had to take that CLE at that time, and
Yeah.
and it kind of brought it back. It seems like it. Even if it's incremental, I guess. But
Well, let me tell you, I got a little sheepish talking about different addictions, like sex addiction. Like, oh, really? and am I going to get grief for that? Oh, don't talk about that. And then, a week later, someone called me and said, I'm going with prostitutes a few times a week, and my marriage is messed up, and I can't stop.
Yeah.
So it's a good thing I mentioned there are sex
Yeah.
addictions
Yeah.
that someone felt comfortable.
Now, some of those things some people don't even consider addictions because they don't
No.
realize they are.
But it's wreaking havoc. I mean, if it's costing money, if you're doing
Yeah.
coke, if you're
Well, the shopping addiction you talked about, I don't think people think about that as an addiction a lot of times. And it's so easy right now to purchase things and buy things. And
oh,
the feeling
online,
you get
yeah.
sometimes when you're buying something is it's not a bad feeling to just pop on Amazon and purchase whatever you want.
and again,
Oh yeah, the advertisement for cycle gear, 5 helmets pop up. I need that one. I need those boots. I mean, it's crazy.
And-
They have our number.
and that matters because we manage other people's money. Traditionally, as practitioners, we take other people's money, we hold it for them, and they trust us with that. And so, yeah, if you even shopping or something like that, that can become a professional problem.
Yeah. So, how does someone get more information, Kristine?
Okay, go to the State Bar of Nevada, www.nv for Nevada, bar.org. Go to lawyer programs, another tab, lawyer wellness. You will find directions on how to get the call map. You will find listings of LCL meetings, the Al-Anon meeting, the stress meeting. What else do we have?
And are all the access to services on there, or do you have to make a phone call or an email to get access to the services?
Well, you have to call to get
Okay.
a list
Are
of
the
therapists.
calls anonymous?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They come to me. That's it. I don't need your last name. So if anyone ever subpoenaed me, if they found out that, someone was going to therapy, I don't know. That's my answer. I don't know. And it's set up that way purposefully to protect. And that's the whole purpose, is to help lawyers, not punish them,
Right.
but to make them healthy so that they can do their job and help the community. That's what our calling is, right? It's a vocation. We are here to help people. But we can't help people. It's kind of like that thing on the airplane. You got to put your oxygen mask on first before you help your kid. Why? Because if you do your kid first and you mess that up and you can't get yours on, you're both sunk. So we have to really embrace this idea that we are strong people, and sometimes it takes more strength to reach out and say, I've had a shit day and I need help. I am not happy with this case. I'm an immigration attorney and my kids are going back to Afghanistan or they're going to Venezuela and I can't do anything about it, but I got to be in court at 9 a.m. So maybe you have an administrator that understands that and says, you know what? Take the day off tomorrow. We'll get someone to cover that. It's awareness. It's being mindful and healthy, like, so that we can do this for 30 years or 40 years.
Yeah.
And if we can't, pivot and figure something else out.
Okay, final thought. One thing you do that goes toward that awareness every day, something small. Awareness, good feeling, anything?
God. A lot.
Is it the Calm app?
Yeah,
Is
she
it
has
what?
the comment. She has
Is
the
it the Calm app?
The app.
Oh, it's
I'll tell you
12
mine.
steps.
I'll do mine, and
Okay,
then
do
everybody can
yours.
do this.
Yeah. Let's
Okay.
go around and just
I
say.
take a moment and I breathe. I literally just breathe. I take a moment. I try to get in a quiet space and take a few moments to breathe. And sometimes I'll even think and count with my breathing because I love yoga. And I'll count the in and I'll count the out. And sometimes it's only 10 or 15 seconds. But I do notice that I go from feeling like everything's a rush and panic and I've got to get all this stuff done in this small little space of time to, okay, this can happen now, just one thing at a time. So that's my thing. I take a moment and I breathe. Justice Lee, do you have any one thing or a little thing or a thought you put in your head that makes you feel, calms you down or centers you or focuses you?
I wish I could say I did. I really don't. Well, here's one thing. I will always think of one thing that I'm looking forward to every day. And I let that
That's
guide
perfect.
me. And it could be something small, like, like I'm going to go have coffee with Judge Albertson, or I'm going to, talk to Kristine later. So just one thing that kind of gets me through the day because I'm looking forward to that one thing. And I guess that's kind of, I guess I didn't think of it as like a mental health thing, but I just do. I wake up and I think, oh, today's the day I get to do this. And so every day I try to think of something that is going to
I love
motivate
that.
me through my day. So.
Michael, do you have one thing?
Yeah, if something goes unexpected for me, I usually just go with it. This almost always works with the no one died,
Oh,
know,
okay.
That's a good way of thinking of it.
unless someone has, but
Right,
hopefully that's
right.
not the case. So
Right.
just try to, which is about perspective.
So it's all
right?
fixable then.
Right,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
about perspective. It could be worse, and almost everything is fixable except that. So
Yeah.
usually, I mean, that's something that my business partner and I will just kind of say in passing sometimes is, we'll be talking about something and then the conversation ends with, no one died.
I like that.
Christine,
my
do you have one thing or even a
God.
few things like
yeah,
that?
no, that's great. No one died. I'm writing all this down, and giving you all credit if I use it in the future. Yes.
Oh, everything I have is stolen from someone.
Yeah,
right.
Meditation. I was in a meditation, one of them, and the message was, ask yourself, where am I? So I'm in Africa on my motorcycle with my headset with my friends, and I was gone, and then I just said, where are you? And like my friends heard it. and the whole, where am I? Where are you? I am here on North Rancho Boulevard in the studio talking with Judge Albertson, Justice Lee, and Mike Burton about well-being. That's where I am. Not what I have to do tomorrow, but sometimes that can happen. And so mindfulness.
Presence.
Being present in the moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so on that note, thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Really
Peace and
appreciate it.
love.